take an example, for example, is really to focus on your customers and on their needs. So if you find that you've done something for your client, your customer, and the plan hasn't gone according to plan, then it's really to say, okay, fine, so what is the customer's needs? We talk about a formula for change, and I'll talk about that another time, but there again is what is their immediate need? And the immediate need is what we often do is become quite reactive, and based on that need, we already put a plan in place, an action in place. And I say we need to take a step back and say, what happened to get to this point that the client is dissatisfied, whatever that might be. So the first thing is to say, right, let's take a step back and say, what's happened, what's transpired? This is where we started. Now we've reached a point where our plan hasn't gone according to what we expected or what you expected. Then we have a look and say, okay, fine, so what are all of the things that haven't worked? What are all the things that have worked? And then from there to say, okay, fine, so what is working? Tick it off. What is not working? What do we need to do to make it right? And we put a plan in place. So we sit with the client, we have a look at what are their needs, not what we want. When there's any disruption, when there's something that doesn't go according to plan, there's emotion involved. So sometimes we magnify it and it appears worse than it really is, or maybe it is as bad as it is. But let's take a step back and analyze. And once you've identified what's not working, say, right, so again, what attributed to that? And what can we do now to make things right? And that's your plan to say, okay, fine. So this is what we need to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. Easier said than done. It's simple, but it is not easy. I think what the important thing here is to say that let's fix what's in our control. I mean, for KZN, sadly had to deal with looting, had to deal with floods. So there's a lot of disruption that's happened in business. And the more clearer the business has been in control of their action plans, how many had contingency plans in place? The same as going back to COVID. If you had contingency plans in place, there was more likely you would recover a lot quicker from an incident that happened. If you don't have a plan in place, you don't know how to handle the next step. So that's why I say rather take a step back and say, what is our plan? Should this happen? Should this happen? Should this happen? How are we going to respond? And we talk about a catalyst that happens, whether it's an internal or an external catalyst. Something happens which changes the next step. Either it's better for you or it's worse off for you. And as that trigger happens, and we call it that change curve, is as that trigger happens, let's say you fall back, so you've lost a key client. It just right under your feet. This client has now decided they're going for whatever reason. Huge impact on your finances. It's also an emotional thing, like where did this come from? I never expected it. Now, as you're going on that downward curve, how long is it going to take you to acknowledge it, work out emotionally how to recover from it, and move into I can now make an informed decision, what is my next step? So what we want to do, as soon as there's a trigger point, we want to know, can I recover quick enough? And if you can recover quick enough, because you have other plans in place, contingency plans. But most people, what happens is when a customer ends up not happy with some plan and you are sideswiped with something that you didn't expect, that's when chaos happens and emotion kicks in, and informed decisions are not top of mind at that point in time. And I've seen often when someone has made a decision, it's a reactive decision, and it actually could be more detrimental to you. So sometimes you've got to go slow before you make a decision than make an instant decision. Again, if you look at the products and the services that you offer, what's important as well is that you've got to be very mindful of when things change, when your clients change, when circumstances change, when environments change, is to say, are you going to adapt? It's the same as, and I'm referencing back to COVID, is that were you able to adapt to go online if you were face to face? Was your business equipped for you to go online or not? So those who were prepared were able to do that. I just came from a client now where they had already, before COVID, were already looking at doing hybrid. So they already had a lot of those measures in place, so that when it was forced upon you, all it did was just speed up that process, which is perfect. So here really again is focusing on the features of your products that you can adjust to meet those needs. So sometimes, like if we look at ours, I mean, as Action Coach, we've been very predominantly one-on-one business coaching with clients. But what happens is when you're coaching the owner, sometimes the staff, the teams are not also being upskilled. So the business owner is growing, they want to expand their business, but their team aren't growing. So we've now adapted it to include training for the teams, so that the teams can also upskill themselves and grow with the owner of the business, as an example. So I want you to look at clients that you've got, that you've been servicing for many years. Have you actually gone back to them to see if your product actually still serves their need? Or is it just a matter of time? Be the catalyst, meet the client, and go through and say, what are their needs that we're not meeting?